Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be doing a mad page, like all my pages are, and using a really tropical colour palette. So I started off on this page and it already had some gloss spray in the background, so I thought I'd try and be a little bit clever and repeat it. So I've used the orchid on one page and rouge on the other. You notice when I sprayed through the rouge, which is the right hand side, I've flipped it over onto the left hand side, so I got some rouge in between the little gaps, which I actually really like the effect of, because you can see on the other page I've got some of that orchid coming through. I can't remember the colour of the name of the purple. So as I was doing this, they sort of had this just really funky sort of fuchsia bright happening colours, so I wanted to be really contrasting and really sort of in your face, so I decided to go for quite a contrasting colour with the turquoise, and just use that mark making stamp across the page. I also decided I wanted to add in a little bit of black and white, so I'm using some of the alphabet tissues and just using some gel medium to glue that down. So really random, not really thinking about what I'm doing, just I've got the tissue torn up, so I'm just using all the pieces of tissue and gluing it down. Going back to this stencil, which I think is called the growing, it's either called the growing things or the living things stencil. There's two stencils and masks that come with the same, and using this flowery pattern, the colour I don't use very often, which is tangerine. So again, that beautiful contrast of the blue, pink and the orange. It's almost a primary colour triad, or an almost primary triad, which is why it works. So once I'd finished sort of putting the orange over, I really liked it, but I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do next. One of the things I did do though was add on this extra stem, because just having 4 on the page didn't really suit me, and quite often if you talk about composition with artists, they'll sort of say that you should have odd numbers of things, or I'm sure if any of you arrange flowers and so on, you've always been told have odd numbers of blooms in the flowers. So once I've done that, I then decided I wanted a little bit more colour, so I'm going back in. This is one of my favourite shapes in this page, and I'm going in with fuchsia. So fuchsia is a more intense reddish purplish colour, which contrasts quite nicely with the colours in the background. So it does sort of pop out from those colours, but it also works with them. I suppose, again, going back to colour theory, it's one of those analogous colours. It's sits next to those colours on the colour wheel. Because I had a little bit of paint left over and I don't like to waste, I decided to go around the border with my sponge just to darken up the edges. Now I'm going in with my Posca paint pen, just got a little white pen, and putting in just a little bit of dot work onto those fuchsia flowers. Sorry, the paint colour fuchsia, they're not actually fuchsia flowers. And some stems or vines onto, not vines, veins, sorry, onto the leaves. I can't speak properly tonight. And a few scribbly lines. So the reason for doing that is it just draws a little bit of interest to those stenciled images, but it doesn't take away from them fully. It also helps kind of blend them into the page a little bit. So you can see by putting that white in, it's not dominating on the page as it once was. It's sort of drawing it back into the background, whereas with the orange, it's sort of pushing it to the foreground a little bit more. So there is magic to doing a little bit of pen work over your stenciling when you're finished, and it's it doesn't need to be complicated. It can just be as simple as drawing really loose lines around your image just to pop it out from the background. And depending obviously on where your finished piece is going, or how much time and effort you want to do, depends on how much doodling you do. I tend to have, as you can see, my iPad's in the background. I tend to be watching things and getting distracted by those, so I often get distracted with my pen work as well and keep going and going. So I was digging through my many splendid drawer of tissue papers to try and find some sort of image to put onto this page. And I've also got some words which I really liked as well, and these are from a very old release from Dina Wakley, the old little small little word tissues that she used to have. And I've also got this face, which you'll notice I've really trimmed up. So I find when I'm doing sticking down collage tissue, I like to have as little collage tissue on there as possible. So if I can trim it up nice and close, and you'll see I'm doing the same to the words, it means I don't end up with a white halo around my work. It's just a pet peeve of mine. It may not bother you, but I know that I prefer to have it trimmed up nice and close. And I'm not usually a fussy cutter, so I often find it a bit odd that I do that. So now I'm going in the other side. Art is your soul on fire. Art is a hobby. It is not a hobby, it's how you live. And I just really like this, particularly because this is the end of this journal. And I've found a little, it's unintentional, but I tend to find the end of every journal that I've done, the colours of the pages tend to be really, really bright and happy, like these tropical palette. I tend to have inspiring or arty or creative quotes on those pages too, because I often feel like they're a bit of a springboard into my next journal. So, you know, I like to end off on a positive note, so to speak, to spring into my next journal. And quite often I won't complete a journal consecutively anyway. It just so happened I did this one. But the last pages of most of my journals tend to follow those rules. It's really, really odd. So if anyone else does that, let me know. If you do something different on your last pages than you do on your other pages, it'd be interesting to see how you go. So because I had a little bit of that leftover fuchsia, I hate paint going to waste, so I decided to use it for my lips and cheeks. I've also used the Stabilo Oil Pencil just to outline the shape of the face a little bit more. You'll notice I also put in the eyes of my face to really draw. Our eyes are drawn to other eyes. It helps us recognize faces. So by putting the whites of the eyes in the irises of the eyes, it tends to make sure that even if it's a really random, whimsical, abstract type image, our mind reads as a face. So at the end of that, I'm just putting in a little bit of doodling around the outside, and that's it. A really bright, cheerful, happy page with those really tropical palette of colours. So I suggest if you don't, change up your colour palette, use something different, experiment with using some difference. If there's a colour palette you like, try using similar colours to that in the future as well. So, if you like the straight primary colours, we'll try with a cerise pink and a turquoise and an orange. Just change it up a little bit and see how you go. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye for now.